Okay. All right. I think we're live.
Hey,
Hey, Aaron.
I'm excited.
It's
It's
good to
fun.
have family back in the house.
I know. Not in the same house, sadly, but soon enough, soon enough.
Soon enough. Soon enough. So, everybody, tonight I'm very happy to be joined by Aaron Alexander. He's a member of the EFA family and also a Blexit Regional Director. And we're going to talk about all things critical race theory as we've been doing. Aaron, you've read some of the bill. We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, I want to share my screen. You're going to recognize this. Aaron, we're going to have some fun tonight, actually. So, this is a picture of us back in the day.
Woo! We got everybody in there.
Got everybody. So this is the crew at a founders lunch. God, that has to be about 5 months ago now.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
5 or 6 months
Too
ago.
long.
Yeah, we had a. I think maybe that was the day we did our photo shoot or a planning strategy or something like that. But
A little bit of both. I remember that day well. That's
yeah,
interesting. It's a nice little bit of diversity in that picture there.
wow, I hadn't picked that up, but yes, yes, Aaron. If you want to call me out, I'm Jewish, everybody. So that's the diversity we're talking about. And Luke is a white guy that's a farmer. That's the diversity. We had it going on. But originally, when we started Education First Alliance, it was us. It was we saw that all students were being shortchanged in the public school system. We saw that public education has been completely taken over by white progressives that were trying to pretend like they were, helping people out of all colors. And in fact, they were running things into the ground. And so I know you've told this story a lot, but I want you to tell it again for our viewers tonight. You have direct experience with critical race theory in North Carolina, in fact, in Durham, where really critical race theory in K through 12 it originated in Durham, and I'll be uncovering that in a special report. And with Brian Prophet. So you go ahead and tell us your experience.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm really happy that you're going to be uncovering that because I think a lot of people, especially in the area, don't realize how deep rooted the CRT beginnings are in Durham. When you look at it, we're right there next to Duke University. We've got UNC Chapel Hill, and I mean, if you read the news in recent years, you know what's been going on in UNC Chapel Hill with the students and the indoctrination that's going on there. Right up the street from NC State, so we're really just right there in the midst of all of academia, and these are big schools as it pertains to the state and nationally known schools. So when we talk about critical race theory and how it's being taught to them, all of that trickles down into the students at the time. My freshman year of high school at Hillside, I had a teacher who was a first year teacher out of NC State. And so she's fresh out of it. I had teachers who were first year teachers out of North Carolina A&T, Wake Forest. So it's all over the place. But I mean, getting into the story, the first time that I really encountered the CRT rhetoric was when I was in 7th grade. I had an assignment from my history teacher, and one thing that if you are following CRT, you'll notice is that a lot of this doesn't come in through what you would see as like conventional means. I got it from a history teacher. Usually, you're going to start seeing it at this point through English, even in math, in places where you would never expect to see it. It's all over in the rhetoric. But I had a teacher who assigned us to write about a prominent historical figure that we thought was, just above and beyond the greatest person that we could think of. And, myself being a young black guy in Durham, North Carolina, I'm thinking about the civil rights movements and all of the people who had played a role in that. But, getting more granular with it, I thought about Abraham Lincoln, one of my favorite presidents at the time, the best president I could ever think of. He helped he helped America through like one of the most turbulent times in our history, freed the slaves. And so I was writing about him, and I wrote this great paper about everything that he did. And at the end of the assignment, I gave it to my teacher and she was giving me notes on it. And she told me, "Hey, have you ever thought about the fact that he might have just freed the slaves because he was really a racist and wanted to end the war? So he had to hurt the South." And of course, as a student, you never really want to argue with your teachers because you don't feel like you know everything. And that was the beginnings of that critical race type thinking for myself. I had never thought about a president doing something just to slight a specific community, especially something as big as finally living up to the values that America has set out in the Constitution. And I mean, from there on, it was something that I would continue to see through school. Um, just hearing about how we should be involved in Black Lives Matter movement, things going on. We did a lay-in at my school after the death of Michael Brown. Somehow Trayvon Martin didn't get the big result, but that's when everything kicked off. We did a lay-in, and that was hundreds of students at our school. We were all Black, and we laid across the floor in our lobby on the stairs, and there was like a balcony type of setting upstairs, right at the top of the stairs, and all there. So no one could walk through the school without stepping on a student, and it was supposed to be like a show of strength and solidarity. Um, and one of the things that you'll start to notice as you look at CRT and how it relates to BLM is that they'll use words like solidarity, comrades, things that have direct linkings to communism. Like it
Right.
skips straight over socialism and goes straight to full blown communism. And I mean, even down to things such as talking about everyone having equity opposed to equality. So taking away from others so that way they're on equal footing as someone else. It's no longer about the equality of opportunity, but about making sure that everyone has the same outcomes. Uh, so of course I had teachers like Brian Prophet, and Sloan will get into full detail about that kind of stuff, the things that you can find his name attached to. But he was really like the ringleader of sorts. He was a head of the history department within my school, and he was also just like he was the cool teacher. He was a DJ, so he was DJ Whole Wheat to us outside of school. Of course,
Sounds cool.
yeah, it goes into like the veganism and vegetarianism, veganism, all of that stuff that is just kind of contrary to what the average everyday American is going to be thinking about. It goes into like the whole holistic lifestyle and Eastern religion type of stuff.
Well, I just want to stop you right there. You do know that whole wheat now and white milk has been deemed, actually whole milk, wait, 2% milk has been deemed to be white supremacist.
Yeah.
And you know a lot about white supremacy because you've been accused of being a white supremacist multiple times, but we're going to talk about that after you finish.
Yeah, I am chocolate milk, therefore I still have the milky undertones of a racist within me.
Never forget it, my friend. Never forget it.
Uh, but one of the things that we were taught by our teachers was how to organize. So after school, we actually had created a group chat inside of what was the group me? That's what it was called, inside of group me. And so with group me, we would come together, and this was led by students, but it was facilitated by teachers because you can't stay after school in high school by yourselves. You always have to have somebody attached to what it is that you're doing for extracurricular activities. And so we would use his classroom to come together, and we would meet about how it was we were going to plan our next protest or our next kind of outreach to get the word out about Black Lives Matter. And it was constantly put in our heads that the country was racist. And even though the majority of our teachers, including Prophet, were white, that most white people were out to get us. They weren't really here to help us. or to see us get a foot up. There was no mobility for us. It was just, uh, you're a target essentially, and that was ingrained in us over and over again. He helped us figure out how we were going to make our visual. So if we were going to do signs or hanging signs around our neck, so that way we weren't talking, and it was like more of a visual thing. Like there was an entire art to it, and long story short, that kind of stuff led me into doing this all the way through until I was in college, and it all really started with the seeds being planted in middle school and being watered throughout high school.
So a couple of things here, guys, in case you're just joining us. Our very own Aaron Alexander went to a very big, I think it was mostly minority high school. That's Hillsdale High School here in Durham. Oh, Hillside, excuse me. And so the Brian Prophet we're talking about, the dude, he's co-leader of the NCAE, the virulently communist teachers union here in North Carolina. Brian Prophet is actually linked to a CCP group, and that is Socialist Freedom Road. We've written about that. Savannah, if you're on, if you can get that article up. So the dude is an official, dyed-in-the-wool, self-admitted communist, and that's what was going on. And so when you're talking about, one thing that stood out is then you're talking about that moment, that day where, and it had to take hours for you guys to actually have a die-in and lay there, right? I mean, were you supposed to be doing academic classes by any chance at that time?
Well, we should have been, but the thing is, like you alluded to, it was a majority minority high school. So we had the year that we did that was my sophomore or junior year. By that point, we had no more than 5 white people in the entire school.
Mm-hmm.
There was maybe like 2 or 3 Asian people, and that's really stretching it if I'm being honest. And so everyone else was Black or Hispanic.
So 4.5 Asian people, is that fair to say? 4.5?
I feel like that might still be giving more than we had. Like there was very few.
Okay.
Like if you want to talk about diversity from a race perspective, we didn't really have that at Hillside. It was Black, Hispanic, and anything else is really like a speckle on the wall. You wouldn't see that. And if there was more than one person who wasn't Black or Hispanic, they were probably related. So
okay.
like that's how just blocked it was. And so during that time when we were having the lay-in, this is a thing that hit home to a lot of us, because like I said, we've been told over and over again that we have a target on our back. The police are going to kill and shoot us at the first opportunity that they have. White people are actually all racist, and we need to be looking over our shoulders. So when Eric Garner dies, we're looking at this like, oh man, here it goes again. And even like Black teachers that we had, they're all on that same mindset. And if they weren't, then they weren't vocal about it. So even though we should have been doing academics at this time, we got time blocked out to stage a protest, take pictures. Like this was a huge thing that we did on social media. And our generation, we're the social media generation. So even outside of just us ourselves, there were so many viral videos and pictures of other students doing the same thing. So if anything, we were just falling in line with what we thought was the right thing.
So I want to put this up here because, and I want to discuss this with you. So this is, and I put this up a lot. So this is North Carolina's math and reading scores from 3rd to 8th grade. This you can find on the DPI's website. And so this yellow star is about 2011 when Common Core got started. Now the left properly criticizes Common Core because it really exacerbated the problem of the achievement gap. And what that means is Black, or specifically Asian, white, and Black students. And you can see in this graph, this is North Carolina NCDPI website. This is 2011. Look at when Common Core comes onto the scene, the plummeting. Now, 2019, so you graduated when, 2016?
Yeah, 2015 is,
okay.
Yeah, 2014, 2015 years when I graduated high school.
Okay, so right about here, 17.4% of Black students, sadly, from grades 3 to 8 are proficient in math and English. Okay, so right here. Now in 2019, it's 14.3, so it's going down. And so
Right.
given that, this is, pretty much all minority high school. You've got the opportunity in that high school to really make a difference and to really, really, really close that gap. That's not what happened. They're, I think, using you guys for photo ops, right? And you're nothing more than a prop instead of actually teaching you, because the history they were teaching you doesn't seem to me accurate. And so what we're having a hard time, well, we're having an easy time understanding it. We're having a hard time telling everybody that critical race theory is anti-intellectual for very, very many reasons. First of all, when you're teaching critical race theory, it's not accurate. It's censoring. So it's anti-intellectual. It's called wrong think, as you say. And it's also inculcating a defeatist mindset. Now, what do we mean by that? I'm going to show you actually directly an example of that. And Aaron, this is coming from the grandmother of them all. You alluded to Duke being there and what a problem it is, and boy, what a problem it is. This all started in 1998 in Duke, at Duke. So this is what anti-racist training, because guys, what we're really talking about is this bull crap about anti-racist training. This is apparently this is white supremacy, and in fact, the opposite. What it's saying here in this anti-racist stuff is that if you do any of these things, then you're a white racist. You or actually, actually what this is, Aaron, is what the anti-racists think of people of color, that they have little experience or comfort working as a part of a team. That people and organizations feel they're responsible for solving problems alone. Accountability, if anything goes up or down or not sideways, to peers and those organizations set up to serve. These things, a desire for individual recognition and credit, I think that's something that they say is white. Things like teamwork, they're saying that concepts like teamwork and being on time and things like that are out of reach for Black people. In my mind, stereotyping in a way that is negative, stereotyping in a way to say that Black people are separate from white people because they don't value universal values.
Right.
Racism on its face.
Yeah. I mean, when you have such low expectations for people, then they're not really going to try to attain anything higher than where it is that you have constantly told them that they're going to end up being. And, when you look at what's going on in our public schools, we run into a lot of these issues. There is no accountability to individual student. And so, we do a group assignment and it all falls on one person because everyone's looking to everyone else to do it instead of pulling their own weight. We're not working to actually better our situation, or, we're not being challenged to do better. I will say I did have one teacher who really challenged me during my time in high school. And he happened to be a history teacher, ex-Navy vet. And that was the one class throughout my time in high school that I didn't pass because it was so counter what it was that I was getting everywhere else, whether that be in AP classes, honors classes. He was actually pushing us and telling us, this is the bar. You're either going to rise to it or you're going to work your butt off until you get as close to it as possible. And that's not what you're going to see on the general basis. And that's what happens when you tell someone, don't be an individual, be a part of this group. Don't work hard, because even if you do work hard, you got to work 3 times as hard to get the bare minimum.
Right. And by the way, anyone, I don't care what color, but anyone of any color that hears that, they're going to be like, screw it, I'm out. Right. I mean, if you're hearing that it simply cannot be done, then, I think it would be an intellectual thing to say, well, then I'm not going to do it. I actually want to share a couple more things with you, that this is what you're getting ready to look at, is being inculcated into the minds of students who, they look to their teachers for leaders. So this is what they're saying. Here's a stage of development for students of color. That number one, if you're non-white, people of color decide to try to become white. They change their physical features to look white in a way to deny they are white. I will say this, Aaron, tie-dyes, there's a lot of white people that wear tie-dyes. I will tell you that.
We need more people wearing tie-dyes. This might be like
Yeah.
an uncomfortable truth, but the rainbow was a sign from God that he wouldn't flood the earth again. And so even though we have already come out of the debauchery that was going on last month as Pride Month, I still think it's important that people of faith are wearing the rainbow, letting people know what it actually is and retaking that. So if there's a lot of white people, I'm glad to know there's a lot of white people that know what what God did for us, and maybe we can get some more people on board with that.
Well, now, Aaron, what you're doing is you're stepping into my territory because you're talking about the covenant. So you're culturally misappropriating the rainbow shirt, and I, for one, am fully offended.
Thank
But
goodness we live in America.
We can agree to disagree, right? And so this is saying that this is early work on anti-racist training. What you were exposed to came out of Duke, was in practice in Durham. That you try to be as good as whites. Now that is white supremacy personified. So anti-racist training is saying that Black people, we need to save them from trying to be as good as whites. And the white saviors need to save people of color from that. I can't think of anything more incorrect and racist on its face. But this is the kind of bull crap that we're seeing. And I'm going to show you something else just for fun. And by fun, this is going to be fun. This is an article I just found, not to bash Christians, but it's in the Baptist International Review. Here is a story on how white women, no matter if they've done anything, they need to be looked at. They don't look like the typical everyday ordinary white supremacist with a, I don't know how they're supposed to look, white hood or whatever, but white women, you know what? You can't let them off the hook. And that is to say what you need to do is to make sure you give them a second look because they're really guilty. And I want to show you the picture of the woman who wrote this.
That's about par for the course.
Okay.
Par for the course.
So a lot of it seems like it's plausible. It seems like it's plausible. And so, I think it's, yeah. So the people that are generally out there, they're slinging this stuff are white progressives, and they're doing it for no other reason, right, to fit in. And yeah, Amy, I think she defines white supremacy as, in this article, being just a white chick. You don't even have to open your mouth, Amy. That's the brilliant thing. I mean, she's really made it efficient.
That is rich.
Right. But I mean, this stuff is going on in schools. And so again, we want to talk about 324 with you. So we've been, as you know, at First Alliance, we've been out here trying to educate people what's in the bill. Really, the bill is a recitation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And it's saying that stereotyping anybody for their race, scapegoating people for anything, and that goes for Black or white, right? Right. And also collectively punishing it. And here's what I tell people that are objecting to this. I kind of turn it around and I'm like, wait a minute. So you don't believe that a white teacher should be prevented from stereotyping Black students? And they'll go, no. I said, well, that's what you mean, right? Because it cuts both ways. It cuts both ways. Amy, we're gonna answer that in a second. And then the second thing, I love this. You don't want your kid to know history. You don't want the real history. You're damn straight. I want the real history. I want Woodrow Wilson, about his racism. I want the world to know about, and my children to know about, the Democrats were the one that gave MLK a hard time. They were the one wiretapping his phones. They were the one. You want to know about the Wilmington Massacre and Josephus Daniels and who owned the Raleigh News and Observer? I want every lick of that history to be taught because we'll know and we'll find out who the Republicans were and who the Democrats were.
Yeah, but you got to be careful with that because they'll come and tell you that the party switched out of nowhere for no apparent reason, you know, you got to be careful. You know, if we start teaching the real history, then they can't say that anymore. So
Well,
maybe it's
that's
them
wrong think. That's what AA Ron likes to call wrong think.
yeah, maybe it's them that don't want the real history told, you know.
Well, and I think that that's what we're looking at. So I want to explain to you what happened. I mean, this is wonderful because last week the GOP Senate came out and said we're going to hang our hats on this. This is wrong. It's everything we talked about. It's the stereotyping, which you just saw evidence of that. We've been showing you a lot of evidence of that. Here we have the grades going into the proverbial toilet, and you're coming up with this bull crap, right? This is not a way to get anyone's scores up, period. And they came out and they said, look, we're going to have a bill. We're going to actually have transparency built into it so that, hey, schools, if you want to have these radical trainers to come in, you're going to have to get it cleared first. You're going to have to show parents 30 days in advance what kind of curriculum you have. Because listen, I don't care what color a student is, what background or whatever. Every parent wants their child to be literate in math and English. I mean, period.
Yeah, there's no way that you're going to be able to live a functioning adult life if you can't read and do basic math. And it is really that simple. I think a lot of this comes down to the public education is trying to take away any rights that parents have to be involved in what their students are learning, what their children are learning, what they're seeing. And so, you know, as they keep encroaching further and further, we need to make sure that there's transparency. We need to make sure that parents can see so that way they have the opportunity to pull their child out of that. If as a parent, I mean, I'm not a parent, of course, but as a parent, I would love to be able to say, you know what, I see that you're doing something wrong that I disagree with. I don't want my child seeing the sex education or something like that. You know, before sex education was in schools, there was less sex amongst teenagers. And then as soon as they put it in, now all of these teenage pregnancy rates go flying up. Why is that? Because they're exposed to it. They're putting the LGBT stuff in the school. Now we're seeing students at crazy rates. I think it's about 13 to 15% of teenagers now are saying that they identify as LGBT because it's in the schools and they're seeing that from a young age.
It's called grooming.
Exactly.
It's called grooming. That's what they're doing. And in fact, I'm going to put a slide up here for you guys to look at. And so, but first I want you to answer this burning question from Amy. Where's the question? Amy wants to know, how do you define racism? Do you define it the same way as DPI does? DPI feels like it's internalized. What do you think?
Internalized. If they think it's internalized, then I would say probably not the way that they do. Racism is like it's an action. So you can have an idea in your mind, you know, some kind of prejudice, but until it's acted upon, I'm not going to consider it racist. For example, you're walking down the street dark at night and you see a shadowy figure walking past you and you clutch your purse a little bit. I'm not going to consider that racist. You could just be fearful. Now, if you have a restaurant and a group of Black people or Hispanic people decide that they want to come into your restaurant and patron you, and you say, no, we don't serve your kind in here, I'll take that as racism. If you want to be like Margaret Sanger and you think that certain races of people should be exterminated to keep a different race of people pure, then I'm going to take that as racism. But I'm sorry?
You think?
Yeah, you know.
I mean, it's on the bubble, but I'll give you that one. Yeah, and a lot of people think, not to get off the topic, but we're family, that vaccines, giving it to people based on their color, people are starting to say, huh.
Yeah, see, I mean, from the beginning, that first of all, you do anything based on race, that's racism. In my personal opinion, I feel like affirmative action is racism. There was a point where it was necessary. At this point, I don't feel like it's necessary. People can get into schools based on the merit. And if you're going to make it 3 times as hard for an Asian kid to get into a school than it is for a Black or a white student, then that's racist. And if it takes less than half as much effort for a black student to get into a school as a white student, then that's racism. It should be based on merit, not based on your skin color or the level of melanin that you have. If you are a little bit yellow, I don't think it should be easier for you.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I agree. I mean, the presupposition is that, people of color aren't able to attain the same level of success. That's not true. We have plenty of evidence to back that up. So, just in line with what you're saying, this is coming from Ardrey Kell High School in Charlotte. This is the SEL lessons they're being given in homeroom, people. Homeroom. This is and by the way, this is a demand that students think this way. These are they're tested on this. And so people of faith or common sense know this is bullcrap. For many people, biological sex is binary, cis male, cis female. For other people, again, look at the scores, people. Kids are failing. They need to be learning this crap. Some people don't feel they fit in, but are put into either box. Now, yeah, this is insanity. We know this is insanity, but we're being asked to actually take it seriously. It's just crazy. And so kids are learning this stuff. Their parents are getting fed up. But and a lot of parents, they're not afraid anymore, thank God. They're not afraid to be called names because they know that this is serious business. This is a list, by the way, same class, social emotional learning. We've been teeing off on this for a long time here. SEL classes. Here are all the pronouns that you've got to be worried about calling people in the 9th to the 12th grade in Charlotte. This is a whole district-wide movement here. And if this isn't grooming kids to, like you said, be gay when they may not be, or if they are gay, to out themselves as gay students before they're ready, that's also not right. Queer questioning, I don't know what that is. Transitioning, they're missing one, and it's called Two-Spirit.
Oh, you've heard of that?
I've heard of Two-Spirit.
It's apparently it comes from something having to do with Native Americans. I don't know how that falls into a gender. I saw Monday, Thursday, Friday on there, or Friday, Thursday, Monday, or Friday, Tuesday, Monday. I'm not sure. The FTM.
Wait, you did hear?
Yeah. Can you pull it back up?
I didn't see. Yeah, I can. Hold on one second. Oh, shoot. I'm going to share it because is that a thing? You're going to have to tell me.
Yeah, they got their class schedules mixed up in here. So like right under cross-dresser and drag, which if they were familiar with the community, they know those are two different things. But right underneath there, they've got Friday, Tuesday, Monday, or Friday, Thursday, Monday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Friday. They got the class schedule right above gay.
What the hell does that mean? Can you even tell me?
No, that's female to male and then male to female. Which is interesting because they have transgender on here. So they have the explanation of what it is that they're trying to do, and then also just a general cover for transgender along with transitioning. So they have 3 different things having to do with the trans community, as they would say.
So they really want kids to do this. And if you know anything about what this is, it's called intersectionality. So it's not enough to be a woman. You've got to be a woman and trans and this and that, because that ups the ante for the victim status that you're able to claim. And so,
yeah, there's a hierarchy to it.
So what I'm wondering is, how does that affect reading and math scores?
Well, they're inevitably going to go down because you're not taking any time to learn how to read or do math, because you've got to be worried about all of the different pronouns and then how you fit into every different category possible. Because if you're not in at least 3 or 4 categories, then you're nobody. Like your entire identity does not exist unless you can fill at least 3. Like I have to be a cis black. See, I don't have enough of them. Cis black male.
It doesn't matter because you're conservative, so they're going to strip every bit of it because
I guess I can be transracial.
you better get damn creative because we've come to the point now, and I tell everybody this is that people on our team have been called white supremacists. You're one of those people. You've been called white supremacists in the USA Today and Washington Post now.
And Washington Post, yes. So exciting.
I mean, I've been called an anti-Semite by a lot of people. And so that's real. And I tell parents that all the time. They're like, oh, I'm worried I'm going to be called racist. I mean, I'm like, well, you are going to be. I mean, Black people, you know, if they have wrong think, are called white supremacists. I'm called an anti-Semite. I may or may not have been called a Nazi at one point. Doesn't matter that my husband's family was all but obliterated. That's beside the point. So,
you know, they're going to swing for the knees every single time, but it doesn't really matter what people call you, because ultimately, like you have to know who you are and what it is that you're doing. So people can throw any name that they want at me, but at the end of the day, it's not going to stick. You know, I'm apparently homophobic. I'm a white supremacist. I'm trying to be white, but at the end of the day, I look in the mirror and I see who I am. So if you let those people say all of those things, you let that hold weight on you, then you're not going to be able to get the job done.
correct.
Your kids are going to suffer because of your fear of being socially castrated. And then at the same time, we have to remember that these kids are being compelled into speech. Like what we just saw with all of the different gender identities and everything, that's compelled speech. And that's what gets them into the mindset of learning critical race theory at the next level. Because I think one thing, if I can like jump into this, I think one thing that I might disagree with some people on is that they're not teaching direct critical race theory in schools at the high school, middle school, elementary level. They're teaching the application of it. So that way, by the time they get to college and they're teaching hardcore Ibram X. Kennedy type, Kevin Johnson type critical race theory, they're already familiar with all the words and they already agree with it. So they're teaching the application. They won't tell you about all of the different breakdowns and how it is critical race theory. They'll just teach you why is the black skin making the white skin uncomfortable. And that's like almost a direct quote from Ibram X. Kennedy's book. Is why is the white skin uncomfortable around black skin? This is in his book. So they'll teach that exact kind of stuff to the students. And it's all based on compelled speech. Students are not going to argue with their teachers. And if it's brought to them as a binary, this is the right answer and why did I choose that answer, then eventually they're just going to be broken down into saying, this is what I'm going to think.
It's total mind control. It's complete mind control. I mean, our great Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson, he's talking about indoctrination, but I don't even think he knew how bad the problem is. This is complete mind control. And I want to show you this. This is another thing. This came right out of the DPI. This is their tool for identifying bias in sources, or as AA Ron calls it, wrong think. So this is something we've shown a lot because it's just an exemplar for what we're talking about here. Teachers are instructed to, in every class, no matter if it's math, basket weaving, whatever it is, to alter their lesson plans, their curriculum in ways that take harm out of the curriculum. So if you see, this is what it teaches you. If a teacher sees something that presents whiteness as the standard or the norm in a story, you're to alter it or to explain to children why it's harmful. If the learning material presents heterosexuality as a standard or the norm, teachers are to either censor it and do away with it, to redo it, or to tell children why that's harmful. Sexual orientation, the same thing. And then it goes on. Let me show you this because you actually have to see it to believe it. It's so insane. I don't know if it changed for you guys on the screen yet. Okay, here's the other part. If the resource shows a father in the home as the norm, teachers are to get rid of it. I mean, because again, the intact family is the enemy of these people. So is God, because God doesn't make mistakes with gender. Thank you very
Right.
much. Just my little 2 cents. Does this source present Christianity as the norm? Again, teachers are instructed to either censor it out or tell children why that's not right. That's against the establishment clause right there. It kills me that schools cannot wade in and promote Christianity or say that it's favorable at all, but they can spend taxpayer dollars promoting that one race is superior to the other. It's insane. And so, and the last one here is, does this source present U.S. citizenship as the norm? And it should be censored out. I mean, that is, it's disgusting, and it is what the DPI is doing. And people on our side of the aisle, by the way, Republicans, are like, why are you coming down so hard on the DPI? This is why I'm coming down so hard on the DPI. I'm going to link this up, guys, so you can see it for yourself. But what do you think about that? Do you think that they deserve to be come down on it? They're training teachers to teach this crap?
They should definitely be come down on. And I mean, that's why it's so important that we have someone like Mark in office in North Carolina, because one of the big issues that we're seeing just across the board with our Republican leadership is that they're never for anything. They're always just against what the Democrats are doing. You look at just literally everything. Democrats all over the place. They're like, oh, we want to get rid of guns. There should be no guns. We want to make weed legal. We want to do critical race theory in the school. And it's always just, no, don't do that from the Republicans. But what is it that we need to be doing? There's never a solution. It's just don't do that. And so it's a speed bump, and they continue pushing on over years and years. And then we end up where we are now, in a position where the things that they've been asking for forever are coming into fruition. So having people like Mark who can see what the issue is and fight directly against it by saying, no, we don't want to just stop them from doing what they're doing. We need to be implementing things like true history, like patriotism, into our schools, the two-parent household. It doesn't have to be specifically teaching Christianity, but just morality and real science. I mean, it doesn't have to go any farther than actual science, to know that men and women are what they are. It's a binary thing, and you're going to be one or the other as you grow up and develop. So, we need to be backing Mark, because I mean, it's not often that you're going to find someone like him and have them actually run, let alone be in office. And then two, we need to be on the ground making sure that we're voting for House Bill like 324.
It's 324, and in this part, it's a Senate bill. And I need to tell you one more thing, you guys. The GOP Senate is going one step further and saying, we want to put this as a constitutional amendment. In other words, what they're saying is, we want a recitation of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. And there's not a darn thing in the world wrong with that. Mark is getting a lot of flack. That's our Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson, and others, because the left is saying, where's the evidence? I just gave you 6 pieces of evidence right here tonight. Right. That's just tonight. Right? And so, there's no genuine opposition to this, except for it is a partisan. They think it's a partisan issue. But I can tell you this, the Democrats are standing out, and not in the way they think they are because of this.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of displaced Democrats, people who are not even the most patriotic. They're usually just run-of-the-mill, default voting Democrat people. But I mean, when you constantly are throwing in their faces that their children are less than because of the color of their skin, that they will not be able to achieve no matter how hard they work, that this country, even though you're affording them at this very moment a decent lifestyle, that they will not be able to do that for themselves, that there is no upward mobility. It displaces them. And they're just like, I might agree with you on some minor things, like I think that rich people should pay more taxes. But if it comes down to their children, then, you've got another thing coming. You're not going to mess with someone's children. And, Lord help these people if they're mama bears like you out here. They will be ripped up if you
Yeah.
continue to pick on the children. And it's
Right.
going to take things like going to the school board meetings and just being aware, having these types of conversations, getting involved in things like Education First Alliance, because we have to come together. This is going to be more of a grassroots effort than it will be from the big hats upstairs, to be 100% honest.
Well, 100%. And we've exposed that, look, there's money to be made in critical race theory. And anytime there is, we saw this with Common Core, that you're going to have people from the right and the left, right, wanting that money. And so we need to stand together. So I want you to tell everybody what Blexit is doing, what your camp specifically is doing. You've got a great project where you're looking to change or to train the next generation of conservatives. And I want to hear about what you guys are doing.
Well, so there's been a minor change in plan. So I will have a different update for you at a later date. Hopefully, that's something I'll be able to get to you by the end of the week. But we are still moving forward with a lot of other things that we're doing in the education division. The school year is just now getting started, of course. And so we're getting back on the grind with that. We're looking to get chapters set up this year on HBCU campuses. And then membership across the entire country at any of your college or high school campuses. If you go to the Facebook, if you type in Blexit Student Movement, or if you go on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Blexit Students, like at Blexit Students, you'll be able to find our link tree in the bio. And then there's a sign up for a free membership. And you can get access to all of the many things that we're doing. We do student workshops. The next one that we have coming up is going to be early in the month of August, where we're going to be doing some college prep things, how it is that you can be a more successful college student, whether that's your money management, time management, communication skills, study tips. And we will have a special guest hosting that. So if you come to our page, you'll be able to see that kind of stuff. And we also do honest discussion where myself, our team, and some of our influencers, and even some of our students, they come on and we talk about things that are going on in the country as it relates to our students in college, high school, and those age groups. How it is that we can become financially literate and what it takes to start our own businesses. We did an entrepreneurs talk with a good friend of mine, Osiga Kaku, and we've got that one in the archive. So if you go on our YouTube, that's there. So we're doing all kinds of things like that. And, we're looking to really teach students how it is that they can get involved in their communities and change the culture of what's going on. So opposed to having students growing up and being taught how to do all of the CRT work, how to be socialist, how to go out and be BLM activists like I once was. Want to teach them how to be more patriotic, how it is that they can, like I said before, get that upward mobility in our economy, because we have the most upward mobility than anywhere else in the world. You start at the very lowest of the low here in America. You can mess around to become Elon Musk. You just have to put your mind to it. And those are the types of things that we want to make sure that students are aware of.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, success for people of every color. I mean, it's a solved problem. We've seen it before. We've done it before. We know it. And so instead of teaching, all this mess, we need to be teaching that. So here's a picture, another picture from back in the day. This is kind of what we cut our teeth here on doing with Education First Alliance, and that is youth presentations. I think this was this might have been the great debate of the Frederick Douglass event, but just teaching that. I mean, I remember you and I putting together the syllabus for that event, and it was like great speeches from Black Americans. There were too many to count. I mean, it wasn't like, the 5 greatest hits. We had 50 that we were trying to narrow. And that's the point, is that there's so many great Americans, period. The one thing that critical race theory does is it tries to separate Black children from their birthright of being an American.
Right.
It tries to tell black children that they're not wanted. It's the white people that are wanted. The white people have done everything, and they don't want you. And it's not only divisive, it's a damn lie. It's heartbreaking, and no child should have to go through that.
Yeah, and I think it really takes away from all of the history that is going on now, like the things that Black people are doing in America right now, and all of the things that we have done. I mean, even through the time of slavery, there were Black millionaires. I didn't know that until this
That's right.
past year. I was given a book that I'm still reading through it right now, and it's just amazing to me. Even during the time of slavery, Black people were overcoming. Past that, you look at the Frederick Douglasses, the Booker T. Washingtons. I mean, I have disagreements with certain things about W.E.B. Du Bois, but like W.E.B. Du Bois, Bethune Cookman, the HBCU was founded by a Black woman. Texas A&M, which is a PWI now, was founded by a Black man. Like, there's so much history throughout our country that involves Black people. It's not just white people. It's not just uh, Black and white people either. There's Asians, there's Hispanics. Like, everyone has had a role to play in America being as amazing as it is now.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about history, we need to be looking at that. And exactly like Lynette's saying, all men are created equal. At the end of the day, how are you going to apply yourself? With all of the CRT and all of the racism that's going on, one of the things I love to look at is how the heck did Oprah do it? How did Jay-Z do it? How did LeBron James do it? How did any of these people become as successful as they are if there's no way to do it? They did it.
Right. And really there's no room to learn about how they did it if you're teaching that George Floyd is the man, as what's his name said, Biden, as he said, George Floyd made more of an impact. His death made more of an impact than did MLK. Speaking of MLK,
That's so disrespectful.
it's absurd. It's insulting. It's a lie.
Oh no, not James.
James Ford said James Ford is the most
Oh,
important person in all of North Carolina public education. I mean, nobody has touched this guy since 2016. He's been on the board since 2018, making all these rules. But I hated to tell you this, Aaron. James is in a panic.
of course he is.
James is in a panic, and he wants to write about MLK. And he said, by the way, he says if you believe things are colorblind, that James Ford does, that you're a racist. But the way that Dr. King is calling y'all anti-racist liars from beyond the grave is doing it for me this morning. Sometimes it's the ancestors tell us everything we need to know about the present. Stop using this man's name in vain.
He's using his name in vain, and
I got to
it's
show you another one.
so interesting. Oh my goodness.
Interesting is a good word, but I think that this is really going to get you. So he's so panicked. He's saying the white backlash we're seeing today against CRT. By the way, last time I checked, Mark Robinson isn't white. Again, what do I know? What do I know? White backlash we're seeing today is a continuation of the tradition Dr. King referenced. I believe it has 3 stages: deflection, projection, and oh my God, violence. So he's saying the next step is he says we're in stage 2 for now. This work is dangerous. Ask these sisters. So
he's before the 4 now is very telling to me, because they're definitely the side of the violence.
Right. And so
James E. Ford pro anti-racism, that's the side where you're seeing all the violence. The people screaming the loudest about white privilege and the implicit racism of everybody walking around. Those are the people out here who are busting the windows, who are burning down neighborhoods, who are looting. The reason why people are fleeing from places like New York, California, the reason why Chicago has this crazy high murder rate over what was it, the 4th of July weekend, over 25 people killed, in one day. You know, these are the places where you're looking at it. The Baltimores, the Atlantas, the places where it's so dangerous, where you're seeing the most of this critical race theory.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that he has the ellipses for now. They're being peaceful. Yeah, it's been a little quiet since the last month.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean this guy is a complete fraud. As you know, Education First Alliance came along, and we didn't care. I mean, we were going to call this guy out. He was destroying everything. He is the exact opposite of Mark Robinson, and of course, our job is to support what's right. That happens to be on the side of Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, and we exposed this guy as the race baiting guy that he is. He is a pariah on the great memory and great deeds of MLK, and he's actually robbing Black children of education. He wants this mess in when you clearly see the education gap has never been greater. This man is very educated. James Ford is a very bright man. He knows that this won't do one damn thing to improve the reading scores of Black students who were the hardest hit after this 1 year of shutdown. Doesn't do a thing.
Well, I mean, he's on the side of the people who require low information voters, people who are going to hear a narrative and vote based off of that, opposed to looking into it. So if they teach students to read, they teach students to do some research, then they're going to have their entire laundry list just out in front of them. Students are going to be able to see where all of this indoctrination is coming from, why they've been taught it for so long, why they couldn't read. I mean, when you look all the way back at slavery, a educated mind can't be enslaved. That's why slaves weren't taught to read. They're trying to keep a very specific voter block because as of right now, I mean, we could definitely use it, but as of right now, the Republican Party doesn't need Black people necessarily to vote for them because overwhelmingly they don't, and it's still possible for the Republican Party to win an election. Now think about if those scores go up and people, these young students, these people my age and younger, are reading the history and they see who it is who's been victimizing them and their families for decades, over
Mm,
a century at this point. Now you have a big
interesting.
group of people who can look at that and say, you know what? I think now I'd rather have that school choice option. I think I want some options that are going to help me pay less taxes that aren't going to fixing these roads that are still messed up in my neighborhood. You know,
Are you suggesting that there's one party that prefers to keep students of color down?
I'm not suggesting. I am pushing that one. That is my stance. That's my stance. I've not seen anything from one party very specifically that would let me think that they want us to be doing any better than what we're actually doing right now. I mean, we look at those reading scores.
It,
The last time I checked, I mean, it's not even just for minority students. Last time I checked, it was at about 38% of students in general could read at grade level in like what fourth, fifth grade, and then it was only like 45% across the board um, once you get to high school. And so I don't know if this
so,
has the totals like for all encompassing, not just the race breakdowns, but I mean it's horrible, it's horrific.
well,
And
I mean, look, the numbers don't lie. I mean, we always say this is that, figures don't lie, but liars do figure. Right. And so, what we're looking at, this is 2019. So this red star we see, this red star that symbolizes when critical race theory was brought back in via social emotional learning, which is the quickest way, a bullet train, if you will, to dumb students down of all races. So this top line you see here is Asian. And so this is, the top line. But look, only 42.9% of white students are proficient. Now, for any grade, that is not, that's not a good showing. But the racial gap here is insane, and it needs to be fixed, and it needs serious people to come in and fix it. And Aaron, you gave us tonight, like a really good example of what's going on, because here you have all minorities in a high school, and they were teaching you to protest, taking up class time to protest, making you feel like crap about yourself because the skin color you had, and white teachers were the ones that were doing it, and they could have taught you. I mean, I know plenty of black only schools. I mean, they outperform most of the public schools here. So we know that it's not a color issue, but if I'm not going crazy, they had a real chance to make a real difference with the people that they purported to help, and they failed miserably.
Yeah, they sure did. One of the things that you'll see if you look at like charter schools or private schools, you can have the exact same demographics that you have in a public school. But the difference is that in these schools where you're either paying money to have your student there or they had to test into being there, the teachers and the staff of that school are going to hold them to a standard. They're going to say, you can be here, and so you better get your butt up here. If you look
Mm-hmm.
at the public school, they're like, oh, we're going to get you anyways. We're going to get your tax dollars anyways. And so there is no bar being set. Therefore,
Yeah.
there's nowhere for these students to like reach for. They're not going to do better if they're not told that they can do better. If you tell a student that they can be better, then they will rise to the occasion 9 times out of 10. I can promise you that.
Well, Amy's asking the good questions tonight. I've known Amy for a long time, and she gets to the heart of the matter. Do black students understand that they're being used and manipulated? Well, I mean, Aaron's a former black student who understands that. Is that one of the missions that you have with your project at Blexit?
Yeah. So one of the things that we really want to do is make sure that students are in a position to make the best possible decision for themselves. So we first of all want everyone to come out of the victim mentality, because if you think that you are a victim, you will continue to be one perpetually. But once you have learned the true history of America, what it is that we have done as Black people in America, and what America has purported to be and lived
Yeah.
up to this point, once you learn about free markets and how to stay out of poverty or come out of poverty, once you learn how to stay out of the criminal justice uh, system, after you've learned those things, I mean, you're in great position to be a well-functioning adult. So with that information, we want people to decide from that point, what is the best decision for you? You might live in an area where there's someone that I wouldn't vote for in North Carolina, but in your area, it would make sense to vote for that person. We want you to be a well-educated voter and to go out and make the best decisions for you and your family.
That's right. That's right. I mean, we believe in school choice here, but the problem with Republicans is that they've spent years saying that we're not going to fight for the public schools. We're going to fight for school choice and school choice only. But look, they've washed their hands of getting into the culture war. And now Education First Alliance is the first conservative group that's really looked under the hood of public education to see what's going on. We can't just say school choice, and damn the torpedoes. I mean, this is America. When there are widespread human rights abuses, as there are in public schools, it is our duty to step in and fix that. I mean, charity starts at home. Wouldn't you agree?
I would definitely agree.
Yeah,
If you're not starting at home, then you're not really gonna get much done. It's like you can clean up the whole outside of your neighborhood, but if you're going home to trash on the walls, then you haven't really fixed the situation.
right. I mean, what moral grounds does this country have to stand on if we are allowing massive civil rights abuse and human rights abuse to happen in our schools? I mean, stereotyping again, scapegoating, collectively punishing. We've seen a lot of that. It goes both ways. It's not right, period. It's not right for white teachers to do it to black students, or black teachers to do it to Asian students. It's just flat out wrong. And oh, by the way, that is a universal freaking value. It's a universal value. And we're led to believe that we're white supremacists, you included, by the way, my friend, that we're a couple of anti-Semites and white supremacists that are sitting here. No, it is a universal value. No one believes that hate belongs in a K through 12 classroom, period.
Right. I mean, we learned when I was in elementary school, we learned the golden rule: treat others the way that you want to be treated. And if we just stick to that, then we will be just fine. There is no hate, and me treating you the way I want to be treated. I'll give you, the respect that you deserve. I expect to get that back. We don't have to be best friends, but we can at least have a level of respect in doing that. And teaching students that, one race did X, Y, and Z to the other race, and this is why we're in this position today, or that the white students are getting some inherent uh, boost in their life because of the fact that they're white, that's going to breed racism within this
Well,
generation. And that's one of the dangers that we don't want to end up seeing. If I'm told my whole life that you're going to get more money when you go to a job, you're going to get the job just because of virtue of you being white, and then I'm going to end up being shot and killed by a police officer who
mm,
looks like you just because I'm black, then I'm going to resent white people and I'm going to have a fear of white people. And you don't want to see that because it's going to end up rerunning us back into where we were pre civil rights, where we need separate but equal, schools, bathrooms, restaurants. And it's already starting to happen. If
oh yeah.
any of you guys have kids on like TikTok, yesterday I actually saw this one TikTok, and it was an Asian guy who had like split the video and was talking about it. It was a black girl who was talking about how the civil rights movement and everyone coming together to use the same products was a bad thing, because now we have all of this racism when black people just wanted to be left alone. I'm like, no, that's not what they wanted. We wanted to be in the fray. We wanted to compete with other businesses,
Equal.
and exactly equal. If Sloan can go into this restaurant, you best believe I want to go in that restaurant and get me a good old medium steak the same way that she does. I don't want to have to go through the back door or not
Yeah,
even be able to go in the first
but
place. That's
again,
crazy.
the anti-racists are telling you if you want anything that Sloan wants, then you're just trying to be white.
And this could be like veering us into a whole nother thing, but that is something that has been ingrained so deeply in black culture. And I'm not sure about other races, but that is something very deeply ingrained in black culture, that if you try to do well in your education, if you like to read, if you speak well, like you're not always speaking in ebonics or using slang, that you're trying to be white. And now you're seeing that come to a head, because as that is something that, like, I went through that going through school. I know multiple other people who still go through that right now going through school. And so now you're hearing it from your teachers, you're hearing it in academia. Now it's becoming true because of the fact that it's been told so many times. Sometimes the truth, so to speak, isn't what is actually true, but it's what the majority are going to believe. And so we have to be really careful with that kind of stuff. We have to change culture so that way people
Yeah.
understand. Like,
Well,
it's not a white thing to be successful.
yeah, believe me, I know. And so this is what we're talking about. This dude points this out in the literature. This is some sort of CRT literature. CRT is simply skeptical that a neutral standard or an objective rule or a rational regime exists. Neutrality, objectivity, rationality are supposed to be outside of power, but critical race theory proposes that power, white racial power to be precise, created these concepts. They created neutrality, objectivity, rationality. And since white people created that, we have to do the opposite. That's a critical race theory text. You need to see that again, because
That
it's definitely cray. It's very strange.
it's really weird how we're so
Yes.
willing to just apply things like rationality, objectivity to white, like, and I don't even like the term whiteness, but to being white, really?
Thomas Sowell,
Like,
it embodies all of these. He is the poster man for neutrality, objectivity, and rationality.
Thomas Sowell is also a North Carolina native, so
That's
don't
right.
you forget that either.
I
But
want. Awesome.
it's as if these people look at history and it starts sometime after
George
any.
Floyd.
I mean, yeah, I mean, apparently that's where history is about to start for kids in middle school and younger now. But it's like anything prior to uh, the Enlightenment period in Europe doesn't exist. So the great African nations and things going on there, the creation of like the geometry and everything there, that doesn't exist. The Chinese empires that ruled, most of the ancient world for who knows how long, creating fireworks and all of these things, like they didn't have rationality. They didn't understand objectivity. It didn't happen until what the Greeks, the Romans, like we're not going to sit here and act like there wasn't so much history prior to that. And it's very discrediting and it's disheartening, honestly. It's like they create a god for themselves because I mean I'm willing to bet that a lot of these people are like atheists or they just don't fall within a theist mentality, and so they're trying to create something bigger than themselves, and so it has to be whiteness because they grew up in America, and because America has been the pinnacle of greatness for our entire lives. Then that's just it. There was no one before America. There was no slavery before the European countries. It's not like it was happening in the Native Americans.
It's
They're
happening right
living
now.
over here. Yeah, exactly. It's not like it's still
You
happening.
know, it's that.
But we weren't the
Yeah.
first ones to stop doing it.
Well,
There's no
yeah,
shortage.
but again, I mean, because whites get assigned with all of this, that we get assigned with all the bad and not the good, according to CRT people. When we know, look, this whole thing is anti-God, and this. We've talked about this. We know, but the reasons that we've talked about it is because look, God doesn't make a mistake in terms of gender. The only perfect one is God Himself, and so these idiots that are sitting there in judgment of everyone, again, they're doing it for cred. I mean, they're definitely doing it to get clout, but they actually, they're narcissists is what they are. They're narcissists in every way. They shouldn't be anywhere near children, period. They surely shouldn't be around children alone. But the one thing I wanted to tell you too, because since you've been gone and you decided to leave us and move away to Tennessee, that I'm your Jewish mother. I'm going to guilt you forever. Forever.
I do hate that I have to miss out on some of the fun, but when I'm back, I will let you guys know. I will let you guys know when I'm visiting.
Well, we'll put you to work. You know that. So we've had a number of teachers stand up. And in fact, we've got a teacher who spoke out on Fox News about critical race theory. And so we've had this movement from, a parent-led movement to a lot of teachers coming forward. Some are coming forward out of the shadows. Some are halfway out of the shadows, just say about up to the knee right now. But they're saying that, look, this stuff on its face is racist. The stuff about transgenderism is inappropriate. No matter what side of the aisle you fall on, a lot of gay people believe that as well because it's age inappropriate and it could force gay children to come out before they're ready. And so we've had some real heroes in the movement, and they're mounting. We've had obviously lots of students of color, lots of Hispanic students, Asians. And so the movement, like you pointed out, it's representing a mass exodus from the Democrat Party, definitely, and from good teachers are leaving too, unfortunately.
We need good teachers. I feel like it's kind of like the same thing that you see with policing. Good cops hate bad cops. And so the good teachers, I know that they have to hate seeing what's coming down through the teachers unions and what a lot of people are just being complicit in. So I'm glad to hear that these people are stepping out and saying something, because if we're not vocal, then nothing's going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And this needs to be led from the inside out. And that's what we're all about. It needs to be led from the inside out of the schools, the inside out of the communities that are affected. I mean, it needs to look, the people closest to the issue are the best at solving the problem. And so we've been doing a great job here at First Alliance, getting people the closest to the issue to actually come forward and to know that you'll never walk alone. Because when you're, in the alliance, you're never going to walk alone. That sounded cultish, didn't it?
Just a little bit, but you're going for the right thing. So we're gonna leave it alone.
It's a good cult.
We're a family. We're a
It's
family.
Family.
Uh...
we're a family. But we really are a family. And, and as we wrap up, I mean, we're growing the movement. And so with Blexit, what I love is that you're focusing again, the people that are the best at solving the issues are the people closest to the issue. And so you're taking the issue, and I might be wrong, but the issue of the uninformed Black voter, because I was an uninformed Jewish voter. And, those demographics, our demographics, have always been taken for granted. Look, now we got a whole bunch of anti-Semites up there, and Jews are saying, they're fine. We just differ on opinion. Meanwhile, they haven't done jack crap for our community. And moreover, they tolerate outright anti-Semitism. Same thing for you guys. I can't think of a bigger example of a racist than Joe Biden. He embodies it.
Has been doing it forever and ever. He was racist talking about President Obama, and I'm not even a big fan of that, man. He was racist before that at Robert Burr's funeral, eulogizing him. He was racist back when he was chewing out Justice Clarence Thomas. He was racist talking to Thomas Sowell. Like, he has such a long list of times that he's just been straight disrespectful to Black people, and specifically Black men at that.
Yes.
Like, you would think by now you would see something from the Black community about not trusting this man. At least looking at him being in office for half a century, never doing anything to help Black people, even though he's been a lawmaker for that whole time, and then running on the back of saying, now I'm going to do something. Sir, you had forever, you had all of your faculties together at one point, could get a coherent sentence out. You didn't help then. I'm not looking for him to help now.
Well, that's when he was a real racist. Yeah, you heard you saw what happened with Lil Wayne and Charlemagne the God. I mean, again, people that come out get hit by their own, it's called horizontal oppression. When you're in a community and you come out and stand for what you think is the right thing, you'll get hit the worst. I know that I've stood against a key Republican that has not been doing what they're supposed to be doing. Boy, I'll tell you what, I've never had the teachers union come after me, but I had this particular person and the GOP come down on me and said, look, my point is this, is that if we can do it, right, Aaron, if we can stand up and say, hey, right is right, we're not standing for it, then each of you guys can do it. You can do it as a teacher. You can do it if you're a parent. Right is right. This is hilarious. That's true. Wow.
He said that he dropped the N-bomb a couple of times last month on video. No one's... you didn't see it?
I did not.
See? Running the daggone the cover for him.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, so I will say this, though. I have a little bit of PTSD from a lot of things that have gone on since, say, January. So I've been tuning the news out a little bit and just focusing straight up on critical race theory. In this realm, we're winning. I mean, I know that the Biden administration has, thank God, backed off of requiring critical race theory to be in our classrooms. I do know that we're winning here. Again, the Senate GOP has said, we are going to hang on our shingle. We are not going to tolerate racial stereotyping and scapegoating in schools, which is great. And then we're going to dare, I think, Cooper to veto it. I'm sure he will. And we're going to try to override that veto.
Well, you guys, if anybody are going to be able to do it, is like we've seen over and over again, it's going to happen at the grassroots level.
Yeah.
And, anybody who is watching this, I would just implore you to please speak out. If there's nothing but the people on this live stream right now, just look at all the comments that are coming in through here. There are other people who agree with you. There are other people who are on your side, and in saying something, you're going to get someone else up and give them the confidence to go out and do what it is that they're doing, that you're doing. It's not easy. It's not always fun, but it's worth it. If you care about your kids, if you care about your grandkids, it's worth it. Because I mean, we only have but so long to get things done before we're gonna get rolled with the steamroller. So we got to be out in numbers. We have to be out in full force. We have to make sure that our voices are heard, that people understand where it is that we're coming from, and that we mean business.
Yeah, we mean business. Sherry Lynn, yeah, PTSD. I said that tongue in cheek. But yeah, that means I've just been exposed to so much upheaval with what's going on in this country. I've had to take a break from the news, and it may actually be PTSD. I know that you guys are, if we focus on everything that's going on right there, it will give you some trauma. And sometimes it is good to take a break from the news, but always that's what we're here for, right? Aaron, we've got to keep it, lighthearted and on focus and give people hope, because there's a lot of hope.
Yeah. I mean, just because things look bad on the news, and you got to remember that stuff is curated. That's not literally everywhere. What's going on in your own backyard. That's where you got to handle things. You fix what's going on at home, then things around you will soon be better. Because if everyone's doing that, then I mean, that's a lot of the work right there. You can't do all the heavy lifting by yourself, but do what you can. Things will get done. Kick the can on down the road.
That's right. Well, guys, I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And again, we are one family. We're going to be exposing critical race theory. Again, people closest to the issue are able to speak to it. And I'm telling you, you can't get any closer than Aaron was and is to this issue. And again, this Senate Bill 324, we need to call our reps. Some of you guys, I notice you're in from all over the state. You've got to call your reps. If they're a Democrat, it doesn't matter. I mean, they need to hear from you. Look, this is an American problem. It's not a right or a left. It's right and wrong. And so we really have to step up to the plate and do that. And so I encourage all of you, don't just send an email, right? Give a phone call. Go down and talk to them. You need to make your voice heard in the next week. And call and let people know why this is not right. We're in an information war, and you're the one that's going to have to pass this along to everyone. So with that, I want to say good night, and I will keep you in the loop. Aaron, you're going to owe me some information. You made a promise to me. At the end of the week, you're going to give me info about the youth project that you have coming up, because we need this program in our lives.
I got you.
Okay. All right. We're going to hold them accountable. And one last comment. Okay, Lynette, when I first read this, I thought I read I have gained 3 pounds, but that's not what you said. Okay. I've gained 3 pounds eating watching this show. All right. Oh, wait. As a combat vet, I would think you're implying pretty tired of senseless Democrats.
LOL.
That's a good one. All right. And we're going to close it up with that. Have a good evening, you guys.